Hey, it's Mark Moyer, Win Again, Clubroom. Thanks so much for being here, ladies. I'm super excited to have you each. Hello, Leah, Rhonda, and LaVonne. And I'm going to do super fast intros for each of you because I want you to fill in some of the other stuff, partially because I usually make stuff up and I'd rather not do that for you guys. But on my screen, I'm going to start with Leah because you're over here. What an amazing background she's got. I think her proudest thing, though, is winning an Olympic gold medal while she's a mom. And the way she did it was she actually was playing softball with the baby Bjorn in front of her, which was kind of that was a little awkward, but I guess she got it done. But three-time Olympic gold medalist in softball for Team USA, is now a very fantastic public speaker and it's just, I think you're everywhere all the time. So I'm just thrilled to have found a time to nail you down. So thanks for being here. Rhonda is a 28 million time champion in racquetball in the planet, and actually galactic, I suppose, and can basically crush everybody's ass. And that much I'm sure of. Lives in Phoenix, is a good friend of mine also. And is now doing a lot of performance coaching. And oh, wait, you called yourself a different kind of coach, Rhonda. What was it again? What's that? Elevation coach, right. We need your help here in New York because the elevators are always out. So please come help us here. LaVonne is one of the fastest people on the planet, if not faster. Olympic hurdler. So I saw a really cool thing earlier this morning, LaVonne, of showing how some women practice by putting the hurdles all next to each other, and they kind of do this. And then it showed a mom doing that with like laundry baskets and all kinds of things like in her house, so it was pretty funny too. But also LaVonne is a managing member of First Class Group and is an attorney and super smarty pants. And I'm super thrilled to have all three of you here. I know, LaVonne, you're like, I know. But first off, I'm going to start with you, LaVonne. If you could tell me a little bit about, and I'm going to ask all of you about this because this is a common theme with what I talk about and what I do as I work with athletes and I help them with their transition from their sport to what's next. I'd love to hear your experience from your point of view, LaVonne. Of you were, this amazing athlete, you're Olympic hurdler, a champion, everything else. What led to what you're doing now?
A combination of force and serendipity. So my father's a real estate developer, so I became involved with real estate 100% by force, sending FedEx and faxes instead of hanging out as a child. And so as I was going through college, he sort of manipulated, like he's the brain and I'm Pinky, and like you need to study this and get this license and this and that. And then I had a professor tell me that I should go to law school. So I went to law school. So after my first year of law school, I went to the Olympics, and I had a mentor tell me that athletes should all be in alternative investments. And what I was already doing was helping athletes get into commercial real estate because I knew that really well, and then sort of advance that into securities law and like general wealth preservation strategy. So it all sort of is like a snowball. Learn things, get access and information, and keep building from there.
That's amazing, and I'm thrilled. I'm sure you are too, that your dad was there to sort of push you along like that to an extent. But he may
Not at the
have
time.
done that, but you did. What's that?
I said not at the time. I was
Yeah.
always like, you don't know.
Yeah, what do you know? Dads don't know anything, I promise you. But look, at the end of the day, you took the bull by the horns, and you had that vision where you realized and you understood from your perspective how athletes are often, I mean, look, we all know that athletes are often misled into doing some crazy stuff, and they feel that they are doing the right thing, but they're not. So tell me well, tell you what, I'm going to come back to you on that question because I want to jump up to Leah for a sec, because you obviously you played softball that whole time, but then what was the moment again that where you said, okay, I guess I'm finally done. What am I going to do now?
Yeah, I just knew, like, my son was 3 when I won my last gold medal, and it was crazy because I just felt like that pull. But it's funny because when I was, after winning my second gold medal, I was 25, but I was like, I still have a passion to play. I still want to play. I don't know. I have to make, the team every single year. I have to get named to the team, but I have the desire to put in what it takes to try. And so then I ended up going to my third Olympics when he was 3, and it was just weird, but at the very end I just felt it. Like, I knew like this is the end of the road, like this is it. And then I kept my eyes on the prize, and it got harder and harder that year, the Olympic year. We traveled a lot, and I think there was a total, like, on and off of 4 months that I had to be away from my little boy, and that was very, very hard. And I just knew, like, okay, it's time. I want more kids. I have other things. And so we won the gold in Athens, and then I ended up having my next 2 sons. So so my passion just started to change, and I did not know what was next. Honestly, Mark, I didn't have any idea.
Um, so how long did it take you to get to that point where you figured out, well, what's next?
Honestly, I just kept taking advantage of every opportunity that would present itself. I coached high school for a couple years. I went to school. I thought I was going to be a PE teacher. I thought I love sports. I want, summers off would be great. I did softball clinics, lessons, traveled that way. And then just speaking, all of a sudden, I started getting asked to speak. And, I swore I would never do that. So, but I just kept saying yes, as much as I felt like a failure so many times. And I got asked to do commentating with ESPN, and same thing, I just felt like I failed my first time for sure. And then when another opportunity came, I didn't want to take it, but my husband encouraged me and said, "Just give it another try. You obviously have to learn." And so then
Mhm.
that led to, I don't do it full time, but the times that I've done it for about 18 years now with ESPN. And so just one thing led to another. And eventually, like, for me, I actually homeschooled my boys for 13 years. That kind of was not a choice also. I mean, it was a choice, but I didn't expect that. My oldest was in trouble all the time, and he was a smart kid, but he stinking could not focus. And so that led to me eventually, like, pretty much having all my boys home until high school. And really now I look back, and as much as I traveled on weekends, I was able to be with my kids during the week and spend most of my time with them. So really, like, one opportunity leads to another opportunity for me.
Professor Leah. Um, I like that. Okay, batter up, Rhonda. You can hear me okay, right, Rhonda? Good. All right. So I'm not going to ask you what it's like to transition from your sport to what's next because you're still playing. So yeah, you're not. I mean, you're gonna. I think. Let me just check my phone. Yeah, it says here you're gonna retire when you're 84. Is that true?
Ish, maybe 184. We'll see.
Who's counting? But tell me a little bit about what are some of what do you have to go through yourself to continue to be, and in the condition it takes to be a champion.
I think the biggest thing is the clarity of knowing where I'm at, knowing where I know I still have room to grow as an athlete, as a player, as a teammate, and and just pursuing that relentlessly, which is the same. I mean, it's the same approach I take to pretty much everything I do. Um, I want to stack those wins on the court. I want to stack those wins through speaking and coaching. I want to stack those wins, through the quality of the book that I'm writing. I mean, I just want to continuous, and it's not about, for me, the selfish part of it is about my own growth and improvement and expansion as a human being and as a total being. But even more so, I mean, I consider myself with the businesses I have off the court as a servant CEO, which is my purpose is to help others. I take the stuff that I've been through in my life or the things that I've experienced in my life, and I want to use those as tools and stories and perspectives to help other people who maybe they're going through something similar, but maybe it's something that's not similar at all, but has the same thread of uh, something that they could use to grow and benefit their own lives.
I love that term, servant CEO. That's great. And I think that what people will find is that when you operate that way, things come around. It may take a while to come around, but they come around. And it's it's so much more satisfaction when that does happen, because you feel, I mean, look, at the end of the day, people feel lots better when they're doing something for the good, for the better, however they're doing it. And to, even though lots of people will say, oh, well, you know what, I don't need to be rewarded for that, I'm just doing it for the sake of doing it. When you do get rewarded for it, it feels pretty freaking good. And it kind of,
it's so I was just the way that you said that, it made me think of when I was a little kid. I'm an only child, so I didn't have anybody to share with. But I remember my father's cousin was babysitting me once as a kid, and I don't even remember what I was eating or whatever. But she nudged me and she goes, "Can I have some?" And I kind of looked at her like, "Get your own." Not like get your own, but like, why do you want mine? I mean, there was plenty to go around. I just didn't know why she wanted some of mine. And I said, it's over there. She goes, yeah, but it tastes better when you share. And I'm 3 years old, so of course I believed her. She's the adult, so I'm like, oh, okay, well then here, And I think it's just such a basic sentence of it tastes better when you share. Oh yeah, you're right here. And I think in some way I've just tried to embody that in like. And part of this probably comes from the number of times that I should have been, not alive at this point, and I still am. And I just feel like I'm still here for that reason. I feel like I've been given these experiences, good or bad, as gifts to be able to have an impact on others in a positive way. So it's, why would I still be here if it wasn't to share, what I have to offer, so that hopefully they don't have to go through whatever I did to learn it the hard way, the way that I did.
Yeah, we can all we all have so many lessons we can be sharing, right? And it's always a bit of a tragedy when people keep those lessons to themselves, right? So I'm going to jump into that. That's a perfect segue. LaVonne, give me, if you could, maybe share with us one of the lessons that you've learned, because I'm sure it's been a bit of a journey to get to where you are now. What's one piece of advice you might give somebody who's looking to become an entrepreneur after whether they leave their sport or whatever they're doing, if they want to make that shift into that? Give me some advice about that.
Whew. Okay, so never get too high on your own Kool-Aid, because we all build our ego. It helps you become good at sports, but we kind of have to be you don't cheer too hard or long when you score, and you don't get too down when you mess up, right? So that's a piece of it. The other piece I would say is, in God we trust. Everyone else must be verified, pay cash, and have documentation. So I've been burned more times from the fact that, like, I am from a good family, filled and surrounded by good people. So my assumption about people is they will do what they say. They will show up. They will do the right thing when given the choice. Okay, that's not real life in the real world. I had to take my rose-colored glasses off and realize people will do anything to you. And contracts don't matter that much if you are with a person with ill intent. So verify the people first, the character of the people, not just the words that they're saying.
The character, I mean, that's something that I get a lot of garbage sometimes for being in New York and from New York and so forth, but one thing we learn here pretty quickly is we have a pretty strong BS-ometer, and we can sniff out those people pretty quickly. The character is the key thing, and you're right, because it's the looking deep into their eyes but through their eyes, right, to see into their soul, I guess, or something. Wow, that was almost deep, which is very unusual from me. But I think that you're spot on. That's great wisdom. And tell me a little bit about then. What was it that said, where you woke up that day and said, you know what, I feel like I should be helping these other athletes with that pathway forward? What was there a specific moment, or is it just something that was growing?
I sort of am a natural teacher. So in my life, I used to get in trouble for this in elementary school, by the way. And I really should have stopped at that moment, because they used to say, too talkative on your progress report, and I would get in trouble. And I'm like, I was helping the other kids. Like, if they didn't understand, I was just helping other kids. And so I always knew
Right.
that I learn best by teaching others, because you become a master when you can repeat it. Okay, you don't get it still. Okay, let me say it another way. And so, in my entire life and my career, especially like even in law school, everybody's like, who partners with the kids who get C's? And I'm like, it makes me better to have to explain and explain and explain over and over. And so, dealing with athletes, most people would say they just don't get it. And I'm like, no, they're just not on their first rep of something new. So if you just keep explaining it and explaining it differently and letting them fail forward, you'll realize that like everybody has the aptitude to do anything. And so because I care about them the most, because I watch people vulture over them a little bit too much, it's sort of like the I would never let somebody bully the kid who sits in the corner who doesn't talk. Like you're just going to be like, what's wrong with you? Like, come on. So that's sort of my entire personality in a nutshell from a child, and then just turned it into working with athletes.
That's perfect, though. I love that story, and it's so true. You know, I try to look at it in a way where I see whoever's in my path or in my world. I value everybody the same because I feel that every single person I speak with has value to me, whatever that value is. But everybody has value. I've seen other people dismiss, the waiter, the doorman, the taxi driver, these people, and I'm like, no, every single person has value to whatever extent. And I want to try to figure out, well, how can I extract that value and find out, I don't mean it for my own use, but just how can I, really bring that out of them, because people love to talk about what they know and what their value is, right? And their knowledge. So I think that's really great what you were talking about with the kid in the corner and that sort of thing, where he or she is sitting in the corner and they have tremendous value, but they're not really sure how to express it. And maybe the teacher doesn't really know how to pull it from them. I guess that's great. Leah, for you, what, give me a lesson that you think you would love to teach, or maybe even teach yourself when you're starting to go through your transition that now. Like what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Well, first of all, I love everything that Rhonda and LaVonne are saying. Like just I just am a sponge. I love just like hearing and listening and cheering and like just seeing these other amazing strong women. Just so many new opportunities out there. Like they're definitely like, and I can tell they're world-class athletes, but like we kind of think similar, or I so believe in what they're saying. I think for me, like my biggest thing is like I feel like if someone else has done it, I can do it. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. So I'm very big on like say along these same lines that all of you are talking about. And Mark, I think that's why obviously we connect as well. And the first time I met Rhonda in person, we really connected, is because it is bigger than us, right? And I think if you go into any environment and you can make it a win-win, then we're all going to be better, right? And of course, they're probably a little more individual sports. Mine was a complete team sport. And I realized that I am team through and through. So as I was going out and speaking and, getting new opportunities, I remember having this realization is like, because I didn't have the name that like the elite, tiniest percentage of people had. But I was still getting these opportunities, and one thing would lead to another. But I realized, well, who is my team now? I had to like step back and almost say like, okay, even as a speaker, like who's my team? And so slowly but surely, people have come across my path. And, my gal who did my website and she does my graphics, I'm like, she's my team. And then I would meet someone else and they'd be giving me advice, or I know, hey, I can maybe utilize their skills and strengths here, and they're part of my team. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is that realizing like helping others is a huge part of it, but being willing to get help from others is absolutely huge as well. And really trying to find like who the best team is and learning mentors. I heard LaVonne say that in the beginning, and I think that's always important for us to be mentors, to be mentored. I just think growth can happen so much quicker, and so many people try to just go off of only what they know, and they're not going to let anyone else in. And I think it's so important, to just really widen that net in every way.
What's interesting is that when you talk about mentors, you say, it's always good to have one. But one thing I realize is that I'll often speak to somebody who may have a lot less experience in an area than I do, but I still want to hear their perspective, because everybody has a fresh perspective on everything. And it's, you know, as you get older and more experienced and more involved with things, you start thinking, well, gee, maybe I do know it all. And the more I realize I know it all, the more I realize I really don't know anything. And so I try my best to constantly ask everybody around me for their thoughts on things. It may not mean that I accept it or pay attention to it or whatever it is, but I typically do. And I typically factor it in as much as I can. So, but I really appreciate that perspective. And I'm going to bounce that back to you, Rhonda. So, you know, from your perspective, you know, what are some of the things you would advise people on, especially if they want to sort of jump into the world of doing things on their own and not working at a company and that sort of thing?
I think the first step that's probably most important is acknowledging that you don't know what you don't know. Having the awareness of not knowing. It's like if I'm lost in a forest and I call you and I say, hey, come get me, and you're like, okay, great, where are you? I'm like, I don't know. Bunch of trees. How many? Which trees? Is there a street? Is it like looking for landmark? Like you just kind of got to be aware of, you know, what you can do to kind of figure out your own GPS of where you're at right now, so you can help yourself learn. All right, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. Now, how do I get there? And then surround yourself with the people who know how to do that, and the people who know where it is you want to go, the people who already have the tools and resources to help you get there. Because I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people make where they can get, you know, kind of paralyzed in their progress is feeling like, well, I don't have the resources to do that. I don't have the this or that to go here, or to meet them, or to take this. But if you don't have the resources, that doesn't mean that you can't be resourceful. And success leaves clues. So you want to be a great speaker. You want to get booked 150 times a year. Find somebody like Leah who's doing it. Ask Leah. Ask her those questions. She'll be happy to tell you. You know, ask her, hey, how did you get into speaking? Hey, how often do you speak? Hey, what do you think I should charge? Like, you know, ask the questions that you need the answers to. Worst case scenario, somebody, you know, didn't learn the sharing as well as I did, even as an only child, and you move on to somebody else. But being able to, I think, identify where your next steps should be, and then surrounding yourself with the people who have either already done it or have the ability to, you know, again, like I said, kind of be a flashlight and help lead the way.
Hey, Leah, what's it take to book 150? Never mind, I'll ask you that later. So LaVonne, or actually, look, all three of you have been champions and you've been at the top of your sport. I'd love to hear each of you tell me, and I'll start with LaVonne, but, you know, when you, in your case, you cross the finish line, you're now the champion, you're the, you know, number one in that sport. How long did you sort of absorb it and let it sink in? Like, oh my God, all this work got to this moment. And was it a day, a week, a month, or was it like 5 minutes later, you're like, oh crap, I got to get ready for my next race or my next whatever?
So I wish that I knew how to live in the moment of glory for more than a moment. Literally, it's like whew, finally over. Don't remember anything about the race. I'm so happy I won because I prepared to win. Now, where can I go get some Normatec boots to get ready for the flight to go to the next race? Is literally, and that could be as big as the world championship, as small as the race at the University of Florida. So it's just like a perpetual state of like gratitude yet unsatisfied.
Unsatisfied. Dang. So what, when, like, if you made like a really kick-ass brownies, you're going to be like, wait a minute, they could be better.
So, oh my gosh. So yesterday I made the best gumbo in history, right? And all I thought of after that moment of tasting it is like, what else can I try from the TikTok people's recipes? Because that's where I get them from. So it's literally that, like you try to master something and then you're like, okay, new vision, new goals, which I think is super important just as a person, because if you like, I made it, Mountaintop. What are we gonna sit here forever?
It's interesting because I'm gonna. Oh, well, I need to ask both of you about the champion thing, but it reminds me of a time where I was actually feeling a little bit the opposite, where I was kind of like, oh man, this has been such a grind, and I don't feel like I've done anything. And then I started thinking, well, I guess at the time anyway, I'd written the book and I'd had a podcast and that kind of stuff. So I was starting to feel better about myself, because it's kind of like one of those things where when the clouds kind of go away and you realize you're only halfway up the mountain, but sometimes it's okay to look down at how far you've climbed instead of up at how much farther you need to climb, right? You can say, wow, okay, you give me the sort of the power and the energy to keep on going by looking back at what I've accomplished so far. And I think it's just what you're saying, where you won the race, so you're halfway up the mountain. You're like, well, I still want to do this, but it's okay to look back and say, wow, what I actually won that race, that's pretty damn good. Like, I beat everybody else here. I guess
Yeah,
that's
it's the banking, right? It's like every day you're just putting in a little work, and then you're like, I banked, and hopefully you'll have all the money at the end because that's all you're focusing on. But at some point, you can look back and be like, I did a good job.
all right, Leah. So look, you win this gold medal, and then you're like, the first thing you probably did was you wanted to make sure it was really gold or not. I'm guessing, right? Or not? But anyway, what was it after that? Like, were you like, okay? I mean, by the way, I read your book. Everybody, go to your nearest Amazon, The Gold Standard. It sold 428 million copies globally. Is that right? Somewhere around there.
Let's pretend. Let's pretend world.
But there's some great anecdotes in there about your journey going through the 3 separate Olympics. But was there you're on the podium, singing the Star Spangled Banner and all that stuff. How long were you guys allowed to actually let that all sink in, or was it back on the coming back home and whatever, or was it like, all right, ladies, get your ass back on the field, let's go?
Yeah, no, I think for us, like it's different. Like all the different sports are a little bit different. They're a little like unique in their own way. And so for us, it was like that 10-day journey of, each day had a different game, right? And then you have the finals. And that's the thing, like you guys are talking about, like it didn't matter how great all the games prior went, because now it's what have you done lately, right? What are you doing in this moment? And I remember one of our athletes, it was her first Olympics and it was my third, and she was just like, I just want the day to be over. I just want to know how it all ends. like not even like going through it yet, right? And it's the same athlete. She was our shortstop, and she also afterwards on the podium, the whole entire place had cleared out. We had done our pictures. We were on the Sports Illustrated, which for softball was a big deal because softball just did not get, doesn't get that attention.
Yeah.
And so after everybody's gone, the stadium's empty. Last few of us were taking a few more pictures on the podium. And like for me, I knew this was it. But I'll never forget, she just said, now I get it. She said, for so long, I would always wonder, why do you guys keep playing? I mean, goodness gracious, like you want a gold medal, move on, you know? And she literally was like, I don't want this moment to end. Like, I don't want it to end. I just want to feel this forever. And she went on to another Olympics. She played professionally in Japan. She's crushing it in every other realm. But with that, like I it's that idea of like once you experience and taste it, like like again, you're just trying everything LaVonne's saying and Rhonda's saying, like I tell kids all the time, I retired at 29 with 3 Olympic gold medals and I still could have been way better. Like because with experience, right, you just keep growing, you keep learning. And what I love and hearing these 2 women, and I'm sure everyone on this call, everyone that's a part of Win Again, we want to always be leveling up. We all want to be elevating, like Rhonda talks about, like we always can. But that's how you have that championship mindset. That's how that is how you win. Like I love the acronym, what's important now. It's like, again, not what you did yesterday, but like right now in this moment, what is important most and what do I need to do? And so we did get to enjoy it. I remember in between Olympics, Mark, I remember when I still wanted to play, saying, oh, one day I'm just going to really get to enjoy these. But until then, I got to get back to work. And
Nice.
so we probably got to celebrate a little longer than LaVonne. I don't know.
That's a good point. That's excellent. Thanks. So Rhonda, you win your world championship, your first one, and you're like, okay, so apparently I'm the best person on the planet. That's pretty cool. Like there's, I don't know how many, give or take, 8 billion people on the planet, whatever it is, and you're the best. So you become the world champion. Walk me through, like, what was your feeling at that time?
Okay, so my first world title had a little bit of an asterisk to it, and not in like a PED way or anything like that. I wasn't even supposed to go to that tournament. I was supposed to be home in a hospital bed, and I said no. Long story short, everyone who doesn't know the story already, 6 weeks before our world championships, I got jumped from behind by two guys with brass knuckles. They shattered the right side of my face. My eyeball almost fell out. I had to have facial reconstructive surgery, couldn't eat solid food for 5 months, could not go to sleep laying down for 2 months. And I still managed to talk my way into maintaining my spot on Team USA and going to our world championships in Ireland at the end of July. And 64 days after getting jumped, 53 days after facial reconstructive surgery, and 29 days after abandoning all pain meds, I won my first world title. So when I won that one, obviously I fell to the ground in tears, and all that kind of flooded my mind was, I'm not even supposed to be here. And I meant that literally and figuratively, in the way that I certainly could have died last night, or that night that I was attacked. In fact, my life was verbally and physically threatened. And then, even though I lived through that, they weren't going to let me go to Worlds. And I understand all the reasons why, in hindsight. But in the moment, I was just like, no, I'm going. Like, even as I was getting my face pummeled, it never occurred to me that I would not be going to Worlds. Worlds is the reason I didn't hit back, because I don't want to break my hand on his dumb face and, not be able to hold my racket and go represent my country. So Worlds was the reason I didn't hit back. It was my very first thought after I took 15 shots to my face and head with brass knuckles. It's the very first thing I thought of when I turned around and squared up was, oh, I'm not going to hit if I don't have to. They stopped hitting. I don't need to escalate by, turn around and start swinging. So I didn't. Anyway, long story short, funny you should ask, because it was a great feeling to have that victory, mainly because of it seemed like such a slim possibility that I would even be allowed to go. And then to obviously still be able to perform that way, 37 pounds underweight, still can't sleep laying down, still can't eat solid food. So it was a little bit of misery in that regard, but the victory was well worth it. And one thing that made that one, little side note, that made that one really, really special for me was we had an all USA final. I played my US teammate in the singles final. Our doubles team won their final. Our men's half of the team was also an all USA final in the singles. And then the men's doubles team also won their final. So that was the last tournament. That was the last Worlds that Team USA swept every single division. So of course we won all those individual awards, and because of that, we also won we swept the men's overall, the women's overall, and of course the team overall. So it was USA gold all the way across. I mean, there was nobody else on the podium, pretty much.
Wow.
It was just us for every facet of the event. So that was pretty cool. But back to what LaVonne was saying earlier about, like, you do something and then immediately it's like done, next. And I had the experience where it wasn't the world championships, but it was the first time that I finished ranked #1 on the pro tour. I did that 4 times, and it was the second time actually that I was at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. And I don't know if you've ever been there, Leah, maybe you have, LaVonne, you might have too. That cube that's kind of in the center of the complex, where you can kind of like walk in and there's quotes written within the cube, and you can look out the Olympic rings that are hollowed out on that one side for photos and whatnot. Anyway, there's a lot of really cool, inspiring quotes from like even hundreds of years ago. It's a really cool cube. And I remember reading one of them, and it said something about, hearing your national anthem with the gold around your neck, realizing you're the best in the world is an indescribable feeling. And I remember reading that, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to feel that. And then it hit me like way too long later. I had just finished #1 in the world for the second year in a row, and I'm like, wait, I already am the best in the world. Wait, I've been the best in the world for 2 years. And there was this wash of grief almost. I'm like, I missed it. Like I literally set this goal when I was 2 years old, watching my very first Olympics as a kid, and I achieved it. and I have achieved it over and over, and I missed it. Like that done next, like didn't even sink in. Like the joy of achievement didn't even sink in for me. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little emotional. I was kind of bent. I was kind of mad at myself. Like I'm so driven that I missed the achievement that I spent my whole life trying to achieve, and I did it. And I figured it out 2 years later. So I had a celebratory day. I went to Disneyland. Took myself. You're the best in the world. What are you gonna do now? I'm going to Disneyland. So I did.
Wait a minute. Did you have to wait in line though?
No, actually.
Well, there you go. A perfect day.
I didn't. That was not me. That was I had a great friend support system around me, and one of them is a sweet talker, and he managed to drop a little honey in the ears of everyone at the front of the line. And hey, can we? Okay, all right, cool. Hey, let's go. I didn't know he was doing that for the first 3 hours we were there. I'm like, how are we getting into everything? Who has the pass? And Sean's like, I got it. Okay.
That's awesome. We need one of those all the time, I guess, right? Yeah. That's obviously a very compelling story, and I appreciate you sharing that, Rhonda, because it's, I think a lot of times what the public sees is they just kind of feel like you ladies wake up one morning and then now you're champions, and there's so much that goes into it. And I want to take a half a step back, because I noticed that the other day was International Women's Day, and I'm not really sure what that means, because to me every day is International Women's Day, and I think I feel like maybe International Men's Day we should get a day, and then you guys get all the others, because it just seems that way. But I guess I want to say that I completely respect how each of you are champions, and you've all worked so hard to get where you are. And I want to make sure that everybody here and everybody who watches this out there, understands that it's not something that just happens. It's something that it's incredible drive and determination and work and the blood, sweat, and tears part of it to get to where you were. And, at the same time, I want to commend everybody who doesn't become a champion, but tries to be, because it's hard to get, I always, people talk about Olympians and gold medalists and stuff, but there's also the people that finished, 82nd in judo or something, that still also spent their lifetime trying to get to that point. So anyway, I want to thank you, all three of you, for doing this. I know that we have like a couple minutes left that we can jump back to the tables. I know that there's going to be a few people I wanted to say a quick hello, but thanks to all of you for being here. I truly appreciate it. Again, congratulations on all your success, not just athletically, but what you're going to be doing and are doing going forward. So congrats to each of you. I'm always impressed.